Hello, this video quickly is going to go over some of the things I want you to think about in terms of the next drawing. It's going to be a drawing of a shoe, and why a shoe, I don't know. It seems like most everyone has one, so I wanted to pick something everyone had. And also, when you think about it, a shoe is kind of interesting because it has the ability to kind of carry some pathos, right? Think of an old shoe, worn down. There's a kind of a structure to a shoe which is pretty interesting in architecture, and it's implicitly organic, which is cool. So in your choice of finding a shoe to draw, think about those things. Think about the look of the shoe, the texture, those sorts of issues. Okay. We're going to be creating the drawing in charcoal. I'll be using a large sheet of paper, the large eraser, the straight edge, and the chunky charcoal. And that's for the first three videos. You'll see that I'm using that. And so that's going to kind of cover the first week of the drawing. And then the last two videos in the series, I want you to move to using a pencil eraser. It's a little bit finer erasure, and the compressed charcoal if you have that. So, as you will note in the videos, I want you to kind of work in a free and expressive way, but yet thinking about structure. So the one thing to think about is the setup. I would like you to kind of, as you see in the photograph of my setup, I have a piece of paper that's kind of rolled up behind the shoe, so I have a nice clean image of the shoe. It's at a 3/4 position to my body, right? So it's not facing me directly, nor is a side view. That's going to force you into dealing with angle approximation, right? Visual measurement, all those sorts of things. As I say, charcoal is really expressive, so you can gain a lot of kind of freedom in the drawing process, which you'll see in my videos, how I do that. Don't smooth out the charcoal. There's always a desire to do that. Let the drawing be kind of chaotic and kind of all over the place, right? And over time, gain control of it. Worst drawings are ones that the artist tries to gain control over it from the beginning, and it's just stale the rest of the way. So be open to the process, in other words. So chaos to order. That's kind of what you need to think about in terms of creating a nice drawing. Notice my approach is using both combination of the straight edge, architecture, and the scribble is kind of this emblem of the organic, I guess you could say, the gesture. So it's add and subtract, kind of adding charcoal to begin with, very light coating, and kind of rubbing that in, and just kind of gently kind of darkening in areas that I see will be where the shoe will be. Again, angle approximation is really very important. Visual measurement is very important. Kind of doing all that stuff at once. Use the chunky charcoal, use the side of it, not the tip. Okay, this is kind of, you're just laying down swaths of value. Okay, I don't ever use the tip of the chunky charcoal except towards the end a little bit. When you try to make an arrangement where you can get lighting coming in from one side, okay? So it's not kind of boring lighting, and we talked about that with the other drawings as well. We call that directional lighting, right? In order to create modeling of the form, of the shoe form, okay? What else? So it's a single sheet of paper. Fill up the composition. Notice that the shoe in my drawing almost takes up the whole composition, right? It's bigger than life size. Make it powerful. That's what we're working for here, powerful drawings. What else? Form versus structure. So I'm constantly trying to develop the form of the shoe, the softness, the tactile nature of it, but I'm also always aware of the structure of it, right? The rigidity of it at the same time. And these are issues that you need to think about if you're interested in art. And then also laid on top of that, this notion of texture, this kind of implied texture. I didn't spend long enough on it to kind of really get into that too much, but you'll kind of see it over time how I try to develop that a little bit. So the process is just push-pull, add, subtract. At one point, you'll notice in video 4 that I really kind of undo everything, right? Kind of get tired and stale and feel. And so I kind of went over everything with a little bit of charcoal and scribbles. Remade the drawing, in other words. Okay? That's very important. And also work on the background as much as you do the shoe. Really, really important as well. That you kind of spend time in that background. I go back into the background numerous times and kind of get a nice energy going there. And at the end, I go in with a smaller eraser and kind of just, make it a little bit more dense. And that's the other thing. Working with charcoal this way, you can kind of make it look like a painting almost, right? Create density to the form itself, a sense of weight. And I noticed in some of the charcoal drawings that we did previously, and you guys were at a little bit of a deficit there because I wasn't there to help you. There's a thinness to them, right? There's not that's a sense of weight and density and kind of energy. Charcoal's a really nice medium, so I want you to kind of play around with that as you develop this drawing. And again, focus on the background as much as the object itself. We get fixated on the object, and so it loses this kind of overall sense to the drawing because of that. What else? Oh, keep adding charcoal. You add and you add and add. And subtract and subtract and subtract. And you add and add and add and subtract. And so you've got to keep adding charcoal. You've got to kind of wipe the clay clean and keep moving on it. Okay, I guess that's about it. So my intention is to have you do kind of get to a point where you're, by the end of the week, showing me a drawing that's the result of kind of the preliminary part of this drawing, right? What I kind of cover in the first 3 videos, right? Just using just broad strokes and kind of just developing the overall kind of energy of the drawing. And then next week we'll deal with the idea of finishing it by kind of creating the, kind of halving the size of the marks, halving meaning half, right? Making them smaller and smaller and smaller until we can get to a point of more resolution in the drawing. And that's kind of the way you should, in my opinion, create an effective charcoal drawing. I think I covered just about everything I need to cover, so I hope you're doing well, and hopefully you'll be able to talk to you at some point. Thank you.